Thanks, Griff. Let's bring in Bill McGurn, member of the Wall Street Journal Editorial Board, former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush. Bill, great to see you this morning. So what are your thoughts after the big announcement last night? Where do you think all this is going?
Well, we weren't surprised. I mean, he teed it up a week ago. So the real question, I think, is not just Donald Trump, but what it means for the party. I mean, right now, there's a big race in Georgia with Herschel Walker. I think people would like to see if Donald Trump is committed to the party as much as he wants the party to be committed to him. He has a lot of support and very enthusiastic support, but I'm not sure it's as broad as he thinks it is. You know, remember that Donald Trump lost the popular vote in 2016 as well. So I think a lot of people, including some of his own supporters, are saying, you know, he had two shots. We want someone else. Last night's speech was, I think, very well done. He avoided the personal attacks and dwelt on an agenda, but he hasn't been doing that for 2 years. And I wonder how soon before we get back to, you know, calling Ron DeSantis sanctimonious and saying Glenn Youngkin sounds Chinese. I wonder which Donald Trump we're going to see.
Okay, so, Bill, you write about this today, Wall Street Journal. Here's your headline. Donald Trump preview the 24 presidential election. The bitterest pill for him isn't that Oz lost, but that DeSantis won resoundingly. Now, with regard to DeSantis, here he is on Victory Night. That was November 8th, part of what he said in Florida.
We have rewritten the political map. While our country flounders due to failed leadership in Washington, Florida is on the right track.
So, I mean, big victory for him. In about 20 minutes, Bill, he's going to be at the Pine Island Bridge. There's an event. We don't know what he's going to say just yet, but that bridge was knocked out by Hurricane Ian. I think they had it reestablished within 3 weeks, which was remarkable itself. And you can see what DeSantis' strategy is now. He's going to stay on the job and say, this is what I'm doing, and these are the results that I'm getting from it.
Absolutely. And he's not going to respond in kind to insults. He can't win that game. I think he's going to put his record out there, say, I'm a winner, proven record, and let people make their own distinctions, let other people get in a war with Donald Trump. He's not going to do it. I think he could win. There are some polls showing Ron DeSantis ahead of Trump in Republican Party in terms of picks for the president. It's still early. The big question is not just whether Donald Trump will win the nomination. The bigger question may be, what does he do if he loses to someone like DeSantis? Does he undermine it? Does he work to make sure no one wins if he doesn't win? Or does he loyally support the party and try to get whoever beats him in the White House? These are big questions.
That is a very big question. There's also the question of what happened in the midterms, Bill, when Republicans lost with young voters, they lost with women, they lost with independents. So how do they fill those gaps? How do they bring those voters back in? And can Trump or DeSantis do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the question. If I were Ron DeSantis, I would point to my improvement between 2018 when he first ran for governor and just now. I mean, this was a landslide. He was improved with blacks, Hispanics, and Asians. So I think it can be done. But those are the hard questions. You know, Donald Trump's candidates, he likes to say, you know, his record, I think, is 232 versus 24 or something. But in the key Senate races, his nominees really did badly compared to other non-Trump Republicans in the same state. And he has to account for that. He can't just say everyone who won is because of me. If they lost, it has nothing to do with me. So I think there are hard questions about that. Right now, the test is Herschel Walker. Will Donald Trump use his money and his influence to help Herschel Walker win?
Bill, thank you. Great to see you. Bill McGurn.
Thank you, Bill.